So it's 6:20 in the morning, and I have a session with Amica Life Insurance, and I've been doing Amica Life for, I'd say over 10 years. I've been the voice of their commercials. Whenever they use a male, sometimes they use a female voice. I'm not sure who they use as a female voice, but I have a session here. They like to do it early because they are on the other side of the country, which does, of course, happen many times where you have to be ready. So the question is, how do you get your voice ready when you wake up at 5 in the morning to do a session at 7 in the morning? Now, the reason I do wake up at 5 in the morning is exactly that, to give myself that extra time for my voice to wake up. Because when you wake up, you've got that morning voice and all that, right? Which can work great if you're doing In a World, One Man. I'm not doing that. I'm doing callamicalife.com. You know, it's very friendly. It's very much like that. So I get up early. I get up 2 hours before the session, and I warm my voice up. And how do I do that? Basically, for this one, I don't want to do too much because I don't want it to get too, you hear that little crackle and stuff? If I do too much warming up in preparation for it, it could get a little bassy this early in the morning because it preps it for sounding nice and deep when you do lots of Maria. So I've got some hot water with just a little touch of honey, organic honey in it. Helps kind of, wake the voice up. It's nice and warm. See, you do not want to shock your vocal cords in the morning when you're trying to wake them up and get them ready for a session. So warm water, not necessarily hot water, but it's been on the kettle for a bit, and it's certainly hot to the touch right here. I'm sure it's, let's see, nice and warm. That'll help. The other way I can do it is by actually reading through the scripts. We've got 3 scripts. I've got them on my iPad here. That's how I do it. I'm paperless in the studio, meaning I don't use any paper scripts anymore. The only time that comes into play where there's a problem with that is they're usually sending me a PDF or a Word document. If it's a Word document, I can go in and make changes because a lot of times in scripts, there are changes to be made. So what do? I usually keep with me, which I'm going to have to get now. I keep a little pad of paper and a pencil in the booth with me when I know I'm doing these sessions. That way, if there is something that they want changed in a line, I can at least write it down, stick it to the iPad, and I can see it there with a little arrow as to when to come in. But this is actually a pretty important part of being a voice actor, is being able to remember what was said to you and then look at the script and go, okay, I'm going to have to add that part in because they wanted to change a word here and there. So I have to look at the script and remember in my head to change it because a lot of times you are working these days in a paperless world where you've just got it just on an iPad or something and you can't just make that change. Even when I'm working with a script where I can write it in, sometimes I don't write it in. I might put a little pencil mark there just to give my brain a reminder, but I've gotten so used to working that way of remembering what it's supposed to be and just doing it. It's an important part of being a voice actor is knowing that, because whenever you're reading, you're always reading ahead. So it says, life is full of big events, and when something important happens in your life, it's time to think about life insurance from Amica Life. So I see that coming up. But when I'm saying life is full of big events, I'm actually reading, and when something important happens in your life, in my head, because I'm looking ahead to see what I have to say. So as my voice is doing one thing, my brain is doing another thing to look. One part of my brain, at least, is looking ahead at what is the next line and is there any words that I need to be aware of. For example, Amica. Amica is a word that is not something you just say every day, unless, of course, you work at Amica, and then you would say it quite often. Or if you have Amica insurance, obviously you'd say it wrong. But as a voice actor, that's a word that I have to remember. Okay, plus it's the client's name. So I want it to sound as good and important and clean and clear as possible. Amica. So I have to remember Amica's coming up. So I look in there and I see bigger words within the script. Financial protection. Ooh, those are big words. I need to be able to see those ahead. Okay. Life insurance. Okay. So it's just anything, a free, no obligation life insurance quote. Okay, I see that sentence ahead. I'm just scanning this script here and seeing words that pop up, and as I'm doing that, I have to remember, okay, you got to, your brain, your tongue, your lips, your mouth have to be ready to say those words. Sometimes you'll see when you've watched any of these vlogs, I'm doing stuff like this with my hands and everything. Whatever it takes to get the words out properly is what's needed, because again, as a voice actor, you don't have to worry about looking really cool when you talk about Amica Life. Let me tell you, you can get your free no obligation quote. See, if I'm sitting here doing this, if you watch in the session, I'm going to go get a free no obligation life insurance quote at amicalife.com, because it's music to me. So I'm doing all of this. It helps me get those words out, and certain words sometimes you might have to kind of change your mouth and go to different places. That's okay. You want it to sound good. And in the mornings especially, these sessions are always at, like I say, 7 in the morning. When I haven't completely woken up my voice yet, I have to do whatever it takes to keep my voice in a cleaner, clearer space. Then if I were to just relax and just kind of let it go, it's going to crackle a little. So I really have to make sure that I take those crackles out. How am I doing that? I'm pushing with the diaphragm. I'm getting that air out. I'm getting as much air out as I can in every one of these sentences. Plus, a lot of these sentences are long sentences. So I have to make sure that I have enough air in my diaphragm ready to go to get all of that out without having to take a breath, like I just did there. I'm also running everything remotely on my Pro Tools right now, and I use an app that they have that Avid has made for Pro Tools that works specifically for it. It's working pretty good. I used to use another one, and it didn't work as well. It stopped working so good, and so this one works quite well. So I'm running the Pro Tools with it, and I can control, record, stop, all of that here, which is important so I don't have to get out of the booth to make any changes. So we've got 3 scripts today. They've booked me for, I think, a 3 or 4 hour session. It won't take that long. It'll probably take an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to do at the most. We'll probably run through each one a good 6 to 8 times just to give them as many as we can. This is the big thing with being a voice actor is, again, being able to read cold, but also being able to read large chunks of dialogue for commercials. The first script has the biggest one. Now, there's 1, 2, 3 paragraphs of dialogue that I need to say. So I need to plan my breathing. I need to run through it. I like to rehearse it a little. I like to kind of get because I want to be able to just flow with this for them. This is announcer stuff that is in my regular voice. So they want me to be me as much as possible. They want this because it's hopefully it's a friendly, nice, youthful sound that's reassuring and good. So life is full of big events. And when something important happens in your life, it's time to think about life insurance from Amica Life. So I have to be very casual with it. So I have to just be as though I'm just talking to a friend. While reading it, that's what I think in my head. Instead of, life is full of big events. And when something important happens in your life, it's time to think about life insurance from Amica Life. Now that may have been the style, 15, 20 years ago, but now it's very much, let me just tell you about this. Life is full of big events, and when something important happens in your life, it's time to think about life insurance from Amica Life. See, Amica Life. I want to end on Amica Life in a positive tone, and I want to highlight that because that's the client's name. So then we go on to visit amicalife.com today. You can get a free life insurance quote in just a few minutes. When you get in touch with Amica Life, you'll learn the answers to some really important questions. See, I'm emphasizing things that I know are going to be important to them. You'll probably hear Paul, who has been the writer and producer and director of these spots with me for, like I say, the last 10, 11 years. And he's a great guy. And so he hears my voice in his head when he writes this stuff, I'm sure. And so we have kind of a rapport that we go back and forth with as to how everything should sound. So, like, how does your need for financial protection change when you get married, buy a home, start a family, or make plans to retire is the script. So there's like, comma, how does your need for financial protection change when you get married, buy a home, start a family, or make plans to retire? Or I could read it like, how does your need for financial protection change when you get married, buy a home, start a family, or make plans to retire? See, there's different ways you can read it each time. So when we go through it, I'll give them various versions, and they may say, I like how you said it the second time. So then from that point on, that means the rest of the times that I read the script, I'm going to read it that same way because they like that already. So I don't need to keep changing the script. But in the first few reads, that's when you make those changes for a script. That's when you give them various versions, and they can say, yeah, I liked how you read it that first time, or I like the second time, or let's do it again the same way you did it in the C take. Again, an A, a B, and a C take. Now with these scripts, there's 3 paragraphs, so I'm not going to give them an A, B, and a C in these more than likely. I'm going to read through the whole thing once. They'll make corrections, give me suggestions, then we'll go back through it, read it again, all one thing, because this spot is a 60-second commercial. Half of the spot is going to be another person that is the setup for the commercial. So they have a female actress coming in to read that part. And then I'm the announcer. So I kind of bring it on home and give all the information at the end. And that's going to be, I'm guessing, another 25, 30 seconds of copy that I get to read right there. So there's 3 commercials that are like that, where it's me and another actor. The other actor will have already been recorded. In fact, that's what they're doing right now. So when they dial me up, they will have already had all of the other people, and they'll know exactly how much time I need for my part, in the commercials. So this is the important stuff when you're an announcer, is to make sure that you end properly too. So get a free no obligation life insurance quote at amicalife.com. That's amicalife.com. Welcome to Amica Life. This is helpfulness insured. So that's their slogan. This is helpfulness insured. So I'm going to give that to them several different ways. We'll see how we land on it. This is helpfulness insured. This is helpfulness insured. This is helpfulness insured. I like ending in a positive kind of insured. They might say go up at the end. How would that sound? It would be this is helpfulness insured. Insured, I go up. Or this is helpfulness insured. I go down. Or middle. This is helpfulness insured. You got various ways of doing it. So you always want to end on a positive though. So they're going to dial me up in another half hour here, about 25 minutes, and we'll be ready to go. I'll take you guys with me, all right? So it's 6:20 in the morning, and I have a session with Amica Life Insurance, and I've been doing Amica Life for, I'd say over 10 years. I've been the voice of their commercials. Whenever they use a male, sometimes they use a female voice. I'm not sure who. You hear that little crackle and stuff. If I do too much warming up in preparation for it, it could get a little bassy this early in the morning, because it preps it for sounding nice and deep when you do lots of Maria. So I've got CallAmicaLife.com. You know, it's very friendly. It's very much like that. So I get up early. I get up 2 hours before the session, and I warm my voice up. And how do I do that? Basically, for this one, I don't want to do too much because I don't want it to get to use as a female voice. But I have a session here. They like to do it early because they are on the other side of the country, which does, of course, happen many times where you have to be ready. So the question is, how do you get your voice ready when you wake up at 5 in the morning to do a session at 7 in the morning? Now, the reason I do wake up at 5 in the morning is exactly that, to give myself that extra time for my voice to wake up. Because when you wake up, you've got that morning voice and all that, right? Which can work great if you're doing In a World, One Man. I'm not doing that. I'm doing